Hey, it's Lou Martini Jr. here. You're about to watch Sicilian Italians Do It Better. I got to tell you, first of all, it's the most comfortable interview I've ever done, if you can't tell already. Two good guys. They do a great job. Great podcast. So please watch this one, and please watch all of their podcasts. And you can catch me at LouMartiniJr.com and see what I'm doing, which is not nothing right now. That's why I'm sitting in his basement. But we had a lot of fun, and you guys have fun watching the show. Take care, everybody.
Italian Sicilians do it better. Oh, can't you see? From cooking to comedy, it's pure family. Turn it up. This groove's for you. Queens in the house, bringing something true.
What's going on, everyone? We're back with my favorite today. In all these great shows, The Sopranos, Manifest, Power, Louis Martini Jr. is in the building. What's going on?
How are you, my friends?
What's up, Lou? How you
First of all, I'm freezing my balls off.
It's all right.
But you know, it's funny because when you go do stuff like in a real studio, it's
like
always
this.
cold.
Yeah.
So I give you credit. It's like a real studio down here. And we're in your house, right?
Yeah.
I think we're in your
We're
house.
in my studio, my home.
I don't know. Johnny
We're in the
P.
neighbor's
Johnny P. led me into the house, and I don't know. I think
You're on
we're in
your
the
own,
house.
bud.
So, but thanks for having me, guys.
No,
you were on our
great.
podcast, of course.
Yes.
a
Thank
while
you for
back.
that. It was
Yeah,
an
it was
awesome
great.
experience.
You know,
That was
we have,
awesome.
We have a podcast. We're in the podcast world too, Breaking Balls with Johnny Potenza.
Breaking balls.
You can see that anywhere, always, on all the platforms and stuff. But you guys are doing great, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me,
no,
guys.
no. Coming,
it's
dude.
an honor having you here.
Seriously.
Please.
So
I am very comfortable.
That's good, though.
I haven't
why I
done
keep
I haven't
it
done an
cold.
interview in a lounge chair in a long time.
That's why I
Does this
keep
thing
it cold.
recline?
Yes, it
yeah,
does.
yeah, that was right on the side.
Mind if I recline
Go
a little
ahead,
bit? Get
go
really
for it.
comfortable.
Relax. There you go.
All right.
But
All right,
just
great.
don't fall asleep.
Okay, I know that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Old Man River.
Because you guys are boring, so they can happen. I won't fall asleep. Can I touch the mic?
Yeah,
or-
bring it closer if
or
you
you got a
want.
teamster that's going to come
No,
hit me
no,
in the
no.
back of
You
the
got
head.
it. It'll swing.
We good? All right, this
Yeah.
way. All right.
You good still?
All right, I'm
All
good
right,
to
there we
go, man.
Let's do it.
Good to go.
So you've been acting since you were young.
Let's see. So 1964, I started as a child actor. So that's 60 years now, right? That I've been in the business. And I actually have my first pay stub from 1964. It was for $64 also. How about that?
$64.
And it was something from back in the day, Disney used to be called Buena Vista Productions.
That sounds familiar.
So it was Buena Vista Productions. And check this out. My house in Jersey is on Buena Vista Drive.
that.
Life
It's
is
just fucking circles,
it's
bro.
strange.
That's crazy.
But I had the first pay stub. Yeah.
So what was your first role? Like, what did you do?
I don't know, but it was probably extra work with that rate, $64 at
Right.
that time,
Right.
So, and it might have been something that my father was doing because my father was an actor back in the day, and my father made sure, like, when he worked, he got my whole family in it. I mean, to this day, I see you got great pictures of the Godfather up there. My dad was supposed to play Luca Brasi in the Godfather.
Whoa.
Unfortunately, got sick the first day they were shooting. He had a stroke and passed away.
Oh,
And Lenny
man.
Montana came in and did a magnificent job. But when I put on the Godfather now, the wedding scene, I'm in the wedding scene. I have aunts and uncles that are long gone in the wedding scene. He got everybody work on the Godfather.
Jesus,
Yeah.
dude. So you were around during that whole, because you know that Paramount show that came out, what was it called? The
Offer.
The Offer.
So was that kind of like accurate?
Well, it was an affirming kind of thing in my life. Check this out. Now, this was a story that's been around my family and my life, my whole life, obviously.
Right.
Now, I'm a little older now, so there's really nobody left in my family to tell that story anymore. So I hadn't heard the story in years. So I'm watching the show like everybody else. It's a great show. Miles Teller, great job. So it's like episode 6 or 7. And there's a scene where the secretary comes in. I want to say, what was the actress's name? Juno Temple, maybe? Does that sound familiar? Did a great job anyway. She comes in. She tells Miles Teller, who's playing Al Ruddy, the producer, "Hey, Al, I get bad news. We just lost the actor that's playing Luca Brasi."
Oh, shit.
I don't know if you remember, if you saw the series. She
I
goes,
did.
"What do you mean we lost him? He's under contract." She goes, No. He had a stroke and passed away.
You pops.
Dude, I jumped off the couch. Like
I didn't
six
realize that.
6 feet.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, they're talking about my dad. I got one cousin left in Florida. I jumped up. I called my cousin. I said, "You're not going to believe this.
Yeah.
the story that I've heard since I'm a kid. They just talked about it on the show.
It got confirmed.
It got confirmed. So now I get invited to go to a screening and a premiere party of it. I go to the party and stuff like that. And I talk to Miles Teller and a few people. Next thing I know, Matthew, oh God, what's Matthew's last name? He played Bob Evans on the show. Matthew Good, I want to say.
I'm shit with names. I'm not telling you
know
this
I'm
right
terrible
now.
with names, too.
No, you got more names than I do.
But
Trust
I
me.
think it's Matthew Good, but he was fat, great guy. He toasted my father, made a toast to my dad.
Oh, man.
Got me all choked up.
Wow.
They all signed the poster from the show and gave me the poster and stuff like that. So it was a great night. And it affirmed this story that I heard my whole life, that my dad was supposed to play Luca Brasi and actually shot one day.
Fucking crazy.
And one of these days, if I can get to those vaults in
Unbelievable.
Paramount, maybe the footage is down there somewhere.
You never know.
Like they found the Elvis footage, right?
What Elvis footage?
The movie that just came out.
Yeah, what? Oh, that's where they found footage for
They
it?
found 60 reels of unseen footage down in Salt Lake where Paramount has a vault. Have you seen that yet?
No.
The Elvis movie?
No.
No.
If you're not an Elvis fan, you're going to love it. It's amazing. It's and you got to see it in IMAX.
I'm glad you said that because
It's
for some reason that's something I was
amazing.
interested in, but now
Oh,
hearing this,
even if you're not an Elvis fan, you'll love it because the sound quality is amazing. The picture, you think you're at a live concert.
Really?
They did a beautiful job. Repeter Jackson, who did the same thing with the Beatles a couple of years ago.
I remember the
To get
Beatles
back
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he did the refurbishing or whatever you want to call it to the
They
film.
remaster.
He remastered. They remastered. So it's amazing.
Crazy.
It's amazing.
Because now with the assistance of AI, and they do like film cleanup, and they do that because they probably have to digitize it first, and then they do like an AI cleanup. Probably
Whatever they did, you
behind
think Elvis is in front of you, man. It's just
isn't it
it's
crazy how technology, like people are complaining, actors are complaining that AI could be taking over
Yeah.
also as acting roles,
scary. You
and
don't know
voice
what's,
roles.
first of all, you don't know what's real anymore.
No.
You see a clip and you don't know if it's
Dude,
real.
there
anymore.
was a Instagram reel. I sent it to him. I was dying laughing. It was Elvis speaking Italian, eating pasta, saying how good it is. Bro, but it had the same film grain. It was like someone, and you say, oh, God, tanto buono. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Wait 2 years from now. Now there's some imperfection. I'm sounding like Johnny P.
Don't worry about
Johnny, how do you say imperfection?
And there you go, like that.
Thank you. Imperfection. Because Johnny P is in the house. Imperfection. But 2 years from now, you're not going to be able to tell anything, man.
No.
You're gonna be like, that's
getting better.
real. Yeah.
That's scary because you wouldn't know what's real, what's fake.
But that's what the actors, and we have one here who could tell you. They won't even hire him. They're going to hire the image of him to do it. And they don't pay him
there's
shit.
plenty of lawsuits out there right now. Morgan Freeman has a big lawsuit.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, because they did something in Europe with his voice and stuff. Like he's got a big lawsuit without his. And he said, you want to do it, you got to pay me. That's fine. You want to do it, okay. If you want to use my likeness for the rest of my life,
do it.
You got to pay me. You got to make
Bruce
it
Willis
worthwhile.
did that. Didn't he pay? Because he knew he was getting sick and he wouldn't be able to do this, that he sold his likeness to whatever AI.
Oh, I didn't know. Really? Yeah.
It was something like that where he said, I'm okay with this. He wasn't going to be able to do acting.
As long as you're fairly compensated, anything is fair game. But you're just going to be fairly. I mean, I worked with Bruce Willis as a bartender back in the day, me and Bruce.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 10th Avenue
So amazing.
Jukebox back in the city.
Dude, what? You better be writing a fucking book because I'll be pissed if
I
you
know, I've
don't.
been told this.
Bro, you need to. Like,
told
start
this.
from inception, bro.
Yeah, I've been
You know,
told
I
this.
remember coming out of my mother.
That's a story because I was supposed to be born dead. I was supposed to be a stillborn.
You see? Even there, he shoots it. What the fuck, dude?
My mom had rheumatic fever.
Wow, man.
Doctor comes into my father, says, all right, listen, we can only save one. We can only save your wife or your kid.
Oh my
What are you gonna
God.
do?
Shit.
He's like, that's a stupid fucking question. You're going to save my wife and I'll have another kid. Unfortunately, if that's the way it's going to be.
Right.
But thank God I came out screaming. I haven't shut up since, you know. But I was supposed to be a
Worked in your
stillborn.
favor, bro.
Yeah.
Worked in your favor.
Yeah.
At what point in your life, in an acting career, that you said, "Holy shit, I'm really doing this"? Like, when did it hit?
All right. I think the first big job that really brought some attention to me was I was in the original production of an off-Broadway show that was really big at the time called Tony and Tina's Wedding. You familiar with that, Tony?
It
It's the
sounds
first
familiar.
interactive show. There's been a lot of rip-offs of it now. You know,
Yeah.
Sylvia's funeral and, you know,
Okay. So this was like the
Joey and
first.
Tommy's gay Italian wedding. There's all these rip-offs of it.
So this was a pioneering one.
It
This
was the very first interactive show.
Okay, gotcha.
Where you would come to the show and you would think you would go to an Italian wedding. Matter of fact, a lot of people would tell the people they were bringing that they were bringing to somebody's wedding.
Yeah.
They didn't tell them it was a show, you know? So, you know, got a lot of write-ups, got a lot of great reviews in that. And that opened some television doors for me at the time. And then I did my very first Law and Order of 20 episodes. Not whatever, then 21 Law and Orders now. Did a guest on Law and Order in 91, 92. And that opened the doors for me.
Law and Order SVU or regular Law and Order?
Regular Law and Order.
Okay, gotcha.
My
Because,
first-
dude, I ran through Law and Order, SVU, and the regular one. I had like this fucking kick, and I started from the very first episode on both. And I think I saw you a couple of times.
Well, I just had a recurring role in SVU for the last couple of years. I played
So
a
there you
attorney
go.
by the name of Ron Fredo, Godfather reference.
if no one picked that one
Yeah,
up.
yeah. And that's another story. I get the job. My name is Rob Parker. on the call sheet. I go to my dressing room. Somebody looked like they put a sticker over where the nameplate is, and it says Fredo, Freddo. So I'm thinking, I know the director. Maybe the director, Mike Smith, is playing a joke on me. He's calling me Fredo for a joke. Whatever. Because it was right around the time that Chris Cuomo had that Fredo thing. That video that went viral. Some guy walked him, called him a Fredo, and he says, "How dare you?" That's an
insult.
It's an insult, whatever like that. So I said, Mike, who put the sticker on my door? I said, oh, you know I was in the Godfather. He says, no. He says, did you talk to anybody from NBC yet? I says, no. He says, no, you're going to recur on the show now. You better go upstairs and talk to Jonathan Strauss, who was the casting director producer. And as I'm going upstairs, Jonathan comes down. He says, hey, Lou, I just want to tell you. He says, would you mind recurring on the show now? I'm like, wait, let me think about it. Yes. And so I did 5 episodes as Ron Fredo, this wise guy attorney. It was fun. It was fun while it lasted.
91, that's when Jack McCoy wasn't on yet, right? It was the guy before Jack McCoy.
Yeah, Sam Waterston.
Yeah.
Yeah, my very first one was I was in season 2. So it was Chris Noth and Paul Sorvino were the cops.
Yes.
And Stephen Hill was the district attorney at the time.
That's the one, Stephen Hill.
Hill. He was the original.
And he was only there for like the first 3 seasons, and then he left, and Jack McCoy
He's very religious, very religious person. He could only work on certain days and stuff like that.
Seriously?
Retired. Yeah. Very,
I did not know that. That's crazy.
So they could only shoot him on certain days and things like that.
Nice.
But then, another big job that really I stopped bartending and haven't had to have a second job, thank God, up until this point, was I got a series called Falcone on CBS, 2003, I want to say. And that was a big job for me. I got a recurring role on that. And that was, when I got the job, I was actually bartending that night. And I got the call, and everybody got free drinks for the next hour. You know, I was like, and that's the last time I bartended or waited on tables, man. So I've been scratching out, making a living at it. Thank God for the last 20 some odd years.
Fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah.
God bless.
Crazy.
How is it being behind the camera?
You know what?
Being behind the camera, being around all these actors. I mean, I know now it's a job, but at first, was it like, holy crap, what am I doing?
I guarantee you at first he's like, wow, this is fucking awesome. Now he's like, yeah, I fucking know him.
Yeah, you know what? Because part of the process of being prepared is preparation. So if you're prepared to do what you need to do, it's about the work and it's about the job. You know, I've never really even been starstruck or anything like that. I'll tell you though, when I first got the Sopranos, my very first episode of Sopranos, on the way there, I was on the West Side Highway. I got a kid on a motorcycle hit me in the back. I had to pull over. He jumped up. He was gone. I get to the location. They sent me to the wrong location. So now I'm 45 minutes late, and I think I'm getting fired. I'm in tears. It's like the biggest job of my life. I'm getting fired.
Yeah, you didn't want to get that
I'm losing my job.
Yeah.
I get to the set, and they say, oh, okay, well, your first scene has been flipped. You're now working with Jimmy. And I'm like, oh, my God. I'm like, I was a wreck. It's like I'm in a car accident, and I got sent to the wrong location. And now I'm working with the king, Jimmy, very first. So that was a strange day. But Jimmy, open arms, welcome to the family. And, it took me about 5 minutes to prepare and get back into what I had to do. And that was it.
He was a good dude, right?
Again, it's all about preparation. Jimmy's the best.
Yeah.
So Sopranos was one of my all-time favorite movies. Obviously, that broke jersey and these track suits and all these good stuff.
Yeah.
How was it walking on set for the first time on Sopranos with those guys?
Well, I told you I was a nervous wreck because I was in a car accident.
Oh, that was all that part?
That was my very first day.
Jeez, I missed that part.
Very first day. And then, like I said, when I do get to the location, they said, oh, Lou, you're going over here. You're going to shoot the eyeglass, where they steal the sunglasses from me. I thought on the call sheet I was going to do my very first scene with Vince Curatola. I mean, no offense to Vince, but he's not Jimmy Gandolfini. You know what I'm saying? Vince is great. So I says, oh, and I'm walking right into the fire now. I'm walking into the big scene with Jimmy right now, and I was nervous. And I never get nervous. But it's just with everything that happened.
Yeah.
You know? So
what a day.
Yeah, what a day is right.
Bro, why is everything that involves you a fucking parade?
I know.
Did you notice that?
It's true. It's true. It's absolutely true, man. It's the dark cloud that hangs over my head.
But it's not a dark cloud because, shit happens.
No, I've been blessed, man.
It's like crazy, man. It's like the cloud turned from black to fucking white.
Yeah. It's funny because my dad and my mom, God bless them both, their whole life was a struggle. And the same thing with me. My whole life has been a struggle. I don't know what it is to have any money. I've always been poor. You know what I'm saying? I've always struggled. Thank God now I got a great, great, great girl for 25 years now. So that walked into my life, and I'm blessed with that with Betty Ann, But my whole life, all I know was struggling. But I think God works in the most amazing ways. I think He has never given me anything I couldn't handle. I mean, I had a health scare 2 weeks ago. That thank God it came out okay. I had throat surgery a couple of weeks ago,
Man, you all right?
and I'm all right, thank God. But the first thing I'm thinking of, my dad died of throat cancer. A good buddy of mine a year ago, in 13 months from diagnosis, to died of esophageal cancer.
Shit.
So I was freaking out.
Yeah.
My wife is a 3-time cancer survivor, 3
Oh
times.
my gosh.
You know, so I mean, it's just I think He gives us only what we can handle, and I think the struggle has made me, and I'm proud of the person I've become through it.
Yeah.
You know, I think I'm a good guy, and I think it's because of the struggle. I don't take anything for granted, man.
No.
I don't take anything for granted, and I've always been a giver, not a taker. You know, in life, you meet people that are just takers. I've always been a
Leeches,
giver.
fucking leeches.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things that we run into a lot, unfortunately.
I'm very humble, as you could tell.
No, you are. No, you are. No, all jokes aside, you really are.
But
man.
that's the way I feel, you know.
Because you don't, you're not egotistical. You don't need it. Like, it's not you. You did your thing. You went through your family life. You had all this shit. It's just not you.
Yeah, but unfortunately, with this type of work,
Oh, no, there's
more
a fuck
your
ton.
type of work,
Oh, I'm sure he dealt
I'm
with
definitely
it.
there's a lot of jealousy. There's probably a lot of people who just want in.
Egomaniacs.
Yeah, and you probably have to deal with all the stuff you just mentioned, plus who you thought were maybe friends, who are family, and
You have very, very few friends in this business. For
absolutely.
example, when I first got to Sopranos, and it's always Italian American actors, always. You know, everybody else sticks together, not the Italian Americans. I don't know why.
Yeah, we are across the fucking board. Shit.
No, it's true.
You see what I put on my thing, right?
It's true.
No,
We
I
don't
know.
support each other.
I know.
We step on your mother's neck for a job.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy. But when I very first got to Sopranos, I heard the story, and one of my buddies was there, and he heard it, and he told me about it. There was a couple of guys at a commercial audition, just sitting around shooting shit. So somebody happened to mention, "Hey, did you hear the good news? Lou Martini just got a recurring role in The Sopranos." So 3 or 4 guys like, "Oh, that's great for Lou. He's a good guy." One guy, of course, like, "Well, I heard he's only getting 5 episodes. It ain't that big of a deal."
Oh, what a piece
What
of
a
shit.
cocksucker.
A
Really?
guy who I thought was my friend. But in this business, you don't have friends. Very few.
What's
It's
the
a very
point?
egotistical, jealous-ridden business, and I don't know why. Like when I was on set yesterday, you guys love Power, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
my
just did a
God.
guest spot on Power yesterday. It'll be coming on.
Fucking nuts, man.
Yeah, it was a great set. But just people don't realize when you're on set, it's a blessed thing to be working, man. Enjoy it, have fun, spread the kindness and stuff. Be nice, Don't be backstabbing and all that kind of stuff. It's just it's poisonous, There's so much poison out
Out
there.
of my own curiosity, that friend of yours, did they make it into anything?
No, not at all.
Okay, so that was just purely
No,
shot at you, and that was it.
yeah.
Fuck him.
Yeah, no, he's just a too big guy.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if they became something bigger, and then whatever, the ego kicked in. But if you didn't even accomplish anything yourself, who the fuck are you to say that?
Yeah, just straight jealousy. It's not that big of a deal. He's only got 5 episodes.
Not that.
So I'm sure one of the guys probably said 5 episodes. You'd give your right arm to get fucking 1. Excuse my French.
No, go ahead. We like friendship.
So remember, I do a podcast with Johnny Potenza, so
That's true.
I say the F word more than I've ever said in my life.
But
because
he's a bad influence, I heard,
I know he is. He's rubbing off on me.
and not in the good way.
Meanwhile, are you snoring back there now, Johnny?
Hey, listen. Let me have to come over there.
Is that God?
God, is that you?
Oh, jeez.
So out of all these sets you've been on, which one sticks out to you the most that you had the best time on? That it's going to be an unforgettable thing you take to your grave?
I'll give you a couple of quick, great experiences. Just the other night, Kerry Russell won a SAG award for her show. I think it's called The Diplomat, and she was one of the really, really most wonderful people I've ever worked with. She wanted to share a sandwich with me. I mean, what star wants to share a sandwich with a guy that's doing a guest spot?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had some great experiences with Kerry Russell, Anne Hathaway.
Oh, wow.
I've worked with her twice. She's been amazing to me. Mariska Hargitay has always been amazing to me on SVU. So it's more about the people that I've worked with that have been amazing people.
Sure.
Sarah Jessica Parker, I'll tell you a great story about her. Is I did a guest spot on this spinoff to not the what's the show with all the girls?
Sex and the City.
Sex and the City. The spinoff that's on now. I forget what it's called.
I don't know. I didn't keep up.
I don't know.
with
We
it.
in the city or we're in the
Sex
city.
in the Towns, maybe.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Someone's banging in the county.
as you can tell, I don't really watch a lot of TV. I watch a lot of documentaries and animal shows
Right,
with
right,
my
right.
wife. But so I did it. I was doing a guest spot on her show, and you get there like 7 a.m. in the morning and stuff, and everybody's just sitting around having a bagel before we shoot. And she was very friendly, and we're talking about. And I had mentioned at that time that my wife was sick, and I wanted to get home that night, and blah blah blah. And I said her name maybe once, maybe in the very beginning of the day. I said Betty Ann. At the end of the day, when everybody's going home, she comes out there, gives me a hug, says, "Give Betty Ann a hug for me," which means she was actually listening, actually having a real conversation. Right. I mean, to that, Peter Gallagher is another guy. You know who Peter Gallagher is?
Very familiar name.
I did a SVU with Peter Gallagher. He was on a show for a couple of years, and he did a movie called The Idol Maker. Have you ever seen The Idol Maker?
No.
You have not seen The Idol Maker? Oh, this is right up your alley.
It's on my list now.
It's an amazing movie with Ray Sharkey,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about a manager that was the real manager of Frankie Avalon and Fabian.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Ray Sharkey. It's an amazing. The soundtrack is amazing. Watch it this weekend, and then I want to hear from you guys if you watched it. It's called The Idol Maker. So Peter Gallagher is the lead in it. So we're just shooting the shit in the dressing room. I says, Peter, you know what I watched the other night? I watched The Idol Maker. I love it. He goes, you saw it? I'm like, you don't understand. My wife and I, we watch it once a month. It's like our go-to feel-good movie. We love it, right? So now we're in the wings. We're getting ready to shoot our scene. And either Betty Ann called me or I called her. And it's like, yeah, honey, I'm getting ready to shoot, blah, blah, blah. And he looks at me. He says, is that Betty Ann? Again, I must have just said her name once, Is that Betty? I said, hey, he says, give me the phone. Takes the phone from me. He says, hey, Betty Ann, this is Cesare. Cesare was his name. And I don't make it. He says, I just want you to know we're all praying for you and blah, blah, blah. And you're going to be great, fantastic. Of course, that made her day, her life, a year. He invited us to his Broadway show. We went to go see him at a Broadway show a little after that. So that's the people in the business that you meet, like the James Gandolfinis that are wonderful to you. That's the lasting impression it makes on you, So I've been blessed to work with some great people.
That's
great
awesome,
people
man.
that have, again, I'll have lasting memories of,
That is fucking awesome,
Yeah.
dude. Because, dealing with people who are in that industry, you hear a lot of the bad stuff. Like, who's a scumbag, who is...
Well, what I've noticed is the bigger they are, this is my experiences.
No, go ahead.
The nicer they are.
Really?
The bigger the stars they are, the nicer they are, the more grounded they are. It's the mid-level people who think they are stars.
You know what?
Or if you ask 9 out of 10 people in the street, who is that guy? I have no idea who he is.
I had an
Those are the guys
experience
you have problems
recently,
with.
and you're right, 100%.
Right? That's who you have problems with. It's like, buddy, you should kiss the ground you're walking on. That you're on this set that you're working. Why are you acting like that, man?
But, I mean, that pulls into question, like, let me give you a name, for example. Daniel Day-Lewis. I heard on set, he is just, you don't want to be around him because he's one of those guys who are really into their role or whatever, and he's hard to work with, from what I heard.
See, well, that's another thing. Now, that's a process. So you're dealing with a process. That's not being rude or being, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, so
I've
I
worked
hear
with
what you're
people that
saying.
are outright rude.
Yeah, but, like, at that point,
But
you
what
gotta
is that?
be a certain way.
What does that mean? A process? Like they're just into that
They're
character?
in their character mode. They're in
Some
their
people
role.
have to stay in character. That's the way they work. I mean, I, for some reason, am able to go like that.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy was that way. Like I said, Jimmy Gandolfini, you'd be talking, he's Jimmy, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as the camera says rolling, everything changed. His body posture, his breathing.
He was Tony.
His eyes go back in his head a little bit. It was the most amazing thing to see.
Oh, jeez.
Some guys can do that.
Yes.
Some guys, their process is they're in character, leave them alone. That's the way it is.
Think about it like this: Jim Carrey, when he was doing the one where he was the guy the actor who left, he was replaying him from Taxi, from the Taxi.
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Where he was acting weird, and then the comedian was on stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why the name is on my tongue.
Apparently,
Yeah.
he stayed.
Yes.
Kaufman.
Yeah.
He stayed in that character on and off set, and that's the way he stayed to stay in that
Christian
line.
Bale is like that. If you work with Christian Bale.
Okay, so
I
he
worked
was
with James
Batman the whole
Franco.
time?
James Franco is like that. James Franco was in character the whole time.
Really?
Yep.
You also have heard sad stories, like some people, like characters haunt them afterwards. Like,
Heath Ledger, but there's different things behind that. They're saying that because he studied these people who were mentally ill or whatever it is, like psycho.
get into that character.
Right, and that damaged him himself. Like, I don't know. I can't.
Again, everybody's different.
Yeah.
I mean, I could talk from my experience.
Sure.
I played a schizophrenic twice.
Okay.
Most challenging thing I've ever done in this business is play a schizophrenic. I had to go places where I didn't think I could go, you know? And I was doing a play in LA where I played a schizophrenic, and at the very end of the play, I take a gun to my head, and I have this really, really crazy laugh, and I'm going to shoot myself in the head. But you don't see it. The play ends with me taking a gun to my head. But literally, for about 10 or 15 minutes when the play was over, everybody knew I needed to go sit down in the corner and just let it all decompress.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But it took me 15 minutes. I didn't take it home with me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I was well balanced enough, I guess, as an individual to not be able to, have to take shit like that. I mean, if you take that shit home or whatever, that's just another level of some kind of psychosis.
Your own
that's,
neuropathy.
That's you know what I'm saying. But there are people that, some roles have affected them.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. I just hear these, once in a while you get these puff pieces that you read, that you're scrolling through ads and stuff of who are assholes, like genuine assholes. And it's contradictory to, let's just say what you said, the bigger they are, the better of a person
And
they
I don't
are.
judge anybody till I work with them. I heard stories.
No, absolutely.
I heard stories about Gandolfini before I worked with them. They were all false.
Really?
All bullshit. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So then these are just basically puff pieces that they just make up some bullshit that it might not even be true. Because
It's that negativity that flows in the air.
no, but that's what it is. It's all
but that could also discourage somebody if not knowing,
or be intimidating and say,
Yeah.
fuck it, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
No, that's understand. I guess the business how it is now, since you've been in it for so long, you've seen the evolution of it. People, the type of shows are out there. What are your thoughts? You think it's getting better or worse? Meaning content, actors, like in like encompassing. I know it's a lot.
And I have a
but
follow-up
like,
to that.
what do you think of it? Is it getting better? You think the stuff that's coming out is worth watching? Is it engaging? Is it as good as it was back in the day, or is it just getting worse?
I don't think there's an answer to that as far as better or worse. I think it's different.
Different is fine.
I'm a story guy. I enjoy storytelling. I enjoy to watch a story. Other people enjoy capes and superpowers.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And if it's done well, it's done well, whether it be a Marvel movie. I mean, you watch some of these Marvel movies, it's like, that's even with a computer, how do they do that? It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And it's just
And
getting
I'll tell you
better.
one thing. If you go watch some of the movies back in the 40s and the 50s up until Brando, the acting now is at a different level.
You see it.
Yeah. Back then there was a tone to what everybody did, and then Brando came along, and then the realism came in. You know, I think.
So he broke the mold. You think?
Yeah, absolutely. Brando changed everything. Absolutely.
What are your feelings on? Let me see if I can explain this right. At a time,
Take your time, because I'm good, man. I'm
I'm
I'm comfortable.
you had to go hustle, audition, and go to these places. Today, with social media, everybody feels like they're an actor or easily exposed versus someone who went out in the streets, moved to LA, like changed their life. Like, what are your feelings on that? You think it's a
I'm
better
at the
place?
point now. I'm at the point now, and my Betty Ann has had to say, "You need to calm down" every once in a while, because I'm at the point now we could be in a mixed conversation, and it could be, God bless him, a guy that's been a sanitation worker for 30 years, and he'll be telling people, "Well, I just did this, I'm an actor and stuff like that," and I'll like, "Hey, you ever done a play?" "Oh no, I have a hard time memorizing lines." And don't say you're an actor in front of me.
Right.
That's insulting to an actor like me. Right. And I've come to a point now, like you said, everybody wants their 30 minutes of fame. Now, 15 minutes is not good enough.
It's gone, yeah.
They want their 30 minutes of fame. You know what I'm saying? I put my whole life into what I'm doing. I studied. I pounded the pavement. I did it all to get where I am. And for you to stand there after 35 years of, you might have been an ex-cop, ex-fighter. Thank God for you and what you did. I appreciate it and I respect it. But to call yourself an actor because you did you did an Olive Garden commercial, or you know what I'm saying? Or you got one line in a movie where you said, "Hey, you," it's just insulting. And we've come to this point of where, again, like you said, everybody wants to be famous.
Yes.
Everybody wants to be an actor or a producer, or director. And that's fine. You want to do that? Go put in the work. I mean, I have some people that I do coaching every once in a while. And I had a dear friend of mine was a teacher for many, many years. And he said, "I want to get into the acting." I said, "Okay, well, this is what you do. You do this and you do this and you do this and you do this." Like, "Well, I can't." I says, "Well, then," I almost said his name. I don't want to say his name
No, it's all right.
because I love him. But it's like, then you're not going to be an actor.
Correct.
Okay? You could be somebody that does things, but saying that you're an actor is disrespectful to actors. It's disrespectful to Al Pacino to say that you're an actor.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's disrespectful to Christian Bale or Daniel Day-Lewis.
So let me ask you this then. You say,
It's my opinion.
No. And to expand on your opinion, when, I guess in your view, when do you when can you say without fail that you are an actor? Where is the line? Where is it that
Fucking hustle, bro.
No, I'm saying at what
When you
can
put the
say?
work in.
Yeah.
When you put the work
Is there
in.
a certain number of like how many things you've done? Is there the trainings that you've done? Like what encompasses it to finally say I'm an actor?
I've had this argument where there's
No, that's fine.
I've had this argument with people where people say, well, you know, he's done 50 television shows, but he's never been on stage before.
Okay.
I don't know. People say, well, he's an actor. It's like, I don't know. I think stage to me,
So
in my opinion,
that's your bottom line.
that separates the men from the
Gotcha.
boys.
No,
because you
totally
have to put the
understand.
work in,
Yes.
and then when you're on stage, you have to work as that character
And you're
for
live,
2 hours,
right?
2.5 hours. Okay,
Mhm.
that's an actor.
That's what I okay. So
When you do a
stage work-
play-
so stage working for
When
you is
to
it.
me.
Gotcha.
That's my
Understood.
opinion.
There's
All
no
right.
room for error there.
No, you can't. You might as well just shoot
It's
yourself right
about
there.
putting the work in, man. Putting the work in, and also the sacrifice. I mean, I sacrificed a lot of things in my life.
Yeah.
That's why I don't have kids. You know, I always put the business first. Because if you want to make it in this business, and don't get me wrong, there are people that have done it as a side job and they've done okay for themselves. But usually, 90% of the time is you got to put everything aside. And if you want to direct, you direct. If you want to write, you write. If you want to act, you act. And you stay in that lane and you have tunnel vision. And you do everything you can to pursue that.
This is like
You
the
know what I'm saying?
methodology of there is no plan B. You only
Exactly,
have plan A.
exactly.
Yes.
I never had a plan B.
There you
Never
go.
had a plan B. And I
Stand.
tell young actors right now, if there's anything else in life you want to do,
Go do it.
anything else in life you want to do,
Go do it.
You go do that because what I'm doing is too hard. It's too hard. There's a lot of luck involved. You know, the talent gets you to here, and then the luck gets you to here.
Yeah.
But the most important part here, once you do get a break, if you don't have that, you don't sustain.
Right.
This is what's going to keep you working. Okay. This may give you the break, but if you don't have this,
You're wasting
not
your
gonna
fucking
sustain.
time. Yeah,
You're not
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
sustain.
yeah.
To rewind a little bit more, because I liked how you spoke about your dad and he had those opportunities and he was an actor. How was it growing up Italian in your household?
like I said, I should write a book one day. I mean, I have memories. I have vivid memories of being in my living room playing with Dean Martin and Red Buttons. People, Red Skelton would come over to my house and do the Clem Cadiddle Hop and stuff
Fucking
like that.
serious?
Because my dad at one time was actually the MC at the Copa in the early 60s.
Wow.
So a lot of these, when I was a baby, a lot of these people would be in my living room. I used to live on 9th Street in the city. I have memories of playing with these people, you know, and meeting these
So
people.
you had Dean Martin in your house?
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
And it's funny now, full circle, I'm very good friends with Dina Martin, who's a wonderful, wonderful lady. And I MC the Dean Martin Festival in Steubenville, Ohio, every June for the last, 18 or 19 years now. So all my friends in Ohio come out to see us again in June. Or if you're not in Ohio, the Dean Martin Festival. It's a fun time. You have all these Dino impersonators, and the whole weekend is revolved around Dean Martin and stuff. Very fun weekend.
If you don't write a book, bro, I'm gonna break your fucking knee. I'm gonna
Road
tell
trip for
that
you
much.
guys maybe this year. Road trip. Dean Martin
Ohio?
Festival.
Yeah, Ohio's not. How long is the trip? 5 hours?
Ohio
6.5.
has
6.5.
a huge population of Italians.
Which is yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
specifically Sicilians.
Yes.
Because we like the terrain. It reminds us of home.
It's literally 20 minutes west of Pittsburgh. So you
Okay.
get all the Pittsburgh Italians come out for the weekend and stuff. It's a fun time.
I
But
gotta-
when I was a kid,
That's nuts. I can only imagine the people you met, bro.
I told Barbara Streisand to fix her nose when I was on Funny Girl. Is that crazy? She yelled at me. I was 6 or 7 years old working on Funny Girl, and I must have been making noise as a kid. She said, "Somebody shut that kid up," and I went, "Go fix your nose," and I got fired.
Dude, what the
My
fuck?
dad got into a big argument with her and stuff, and I got fired. Crazy, it's
So
crazy
you,
shit.
you literally can't go anywhere then.
No, I can't.
No.
When he said he was born and hasn't shut his mouth up since,
I like to think that I'm the most famous, not famous actor in the business, because everybody knows me, but they don't know what they know me from.
Right. They're like, you
'Cause it's
have
like a
that
little of everything.
face.
It's a little of everything, you know.
Dude, so you're the guy. I know that
the guy,
face.
the My voice is recognizable.
Yeah.
People will say, "Lou, I heard your voice. I was in the other room. And I heard your voice, and I ran in and saw that was a Law and Order or something like that."
I thought you were here, but you were prosecuting a rapist. Or rather, no, you were defending the rapist.
Defending. I was,
Yeah, there you go.
I was a defense lawyer. I was a defense attorney.
Defense lawyer.
do you think the movie industry, people will say Hollywood, I say the movie industry, do you think when they portray the Italian American stereotype, is that right?
Well, you know why they do it? Because the Italians are the only ones that put up with it.
Yeah.
All day we've been hearing that.
See? And it's true.
Because the
we do.
Italians
Don't
allow
complain.
it.
Yeah.
They allow it. They allow it. You can't make fun of a black person anymore. You can't make fun of a Jewish person anymore. Can't make the only people that you can make fun of in this country right now are middle-aged white guys and Italians. Those are the two groups that are getting shit on.
And a lot of times those intertwine.
Well, usually a middle-class white guy is Italian. Unless you're Sicilian, then he's...
No, that's a little different.
Once that stops,
Then he can
it's
be from
gonna boring.
Queensbridge,
Yeah, who's going to be next on the list then? We're okay.
Yeah, look, you watch a commercial now. You watch like a commercial for a security company.
Mm-hmm.
Guys that are robbing the house now. It's never an ethnic.
No.
It can't be.
Can't.
It has to be a middle-aged white guy that's robbing the house now. And it's all shifted. It's all shifted.
Hey, listen, if they got to go in that direction, I guess whatever helps them.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
The world we live in. It's the world we live in.
I know you said it earlier, but just to get a little deeper in it, from a scale, I guess, of 1 to 10, how much has that movie industry changed from what you remember it to how it's now? And where is it shifting? Where do you see it going? Is it going more AI, more computer generated stuff?
Oh yeah,
or is it-
definitely.
that's the field it's
Definitely.
heading.
I mean, right now, if I wanted to write a script tonight, for example, I could just go on. If I had an AI program, I'd say, okay, I want a Christmas story with a 10-year-old boy and a puppy. Bang! I'd have a 120-page script in front of me.
Yeah, but there's no soul in it, man.
But here's the thing. Well, like I said, 2 years from now, you're not going to be able to tell. Now, there might be some nuances you could tell that there was not a human
Grammar,
hand involved. Yes. But
tenses.
2 years from now,
Yeah.
it's over. It's over.
Yeah.
It's over. This interview could be over 2 years from now, and all of a sudden I wouldn't be here. You'd be like, fuck, that wasn't even Lou. It was AI. We just interviewed. Where did he go? He went back into the computer. Wait a second. How did that happen? I really, you know what? I think the greatest thing that's happened is cable television has found storytelling.
Yeah.
The HBOs, the stars and stuff like that. I think your best written dramas and stuff like that are not in the movie theaters anymore.
No.
They're on cable TV.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree.
that's a big shift because
They're
cable
on
TV 15
Hallmark.
years ago.
Dude, I tell you, man.
I'm trying to sell a Christmas movie to Hallmark for 5 years now. So
No,
please.
but all you need to do, see, and I can tell you where you fucked up. You didn't put a baker in there who's trying to save the town. That's all you need. You need a baker who's a woman who came in from, some kind of distraught background,
Yep.
and she's gonna save the town from shutting down.
Yeah,
that's it.
my problem with our Christmas movie, it's called The Brooklyn Christmas, written by Anthony Mangano and what is Drew Henriksen. Really great script, and we've almost sold it a couple of times, but it's like a cross between Goodfellas and It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
So my problem probably is there's probably too many Italians in it.
It definitely
There's
is.
probably too many. That's why we can't sell it. There's too many Italians in it.
You need the baker. She needs to be from Cincinnati. You need to change Brooklyn to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
It'll
And if
sell.
I made it ethnic, we'd sell it.
Oh,
Like
it
that's
would've
the
been
number one selling thing is an ethnic horror movie. You sell that like this,
Oh yeah,
or an ethnic Christmas story. You sell it like that.
it's incredible,
Yeah.
dude.
Whatever happened to just selling something good, period?
It
Exactly.
don't mean nothing because it needs to have a political
Exactly.
agenda behind
Exactly.
it.
It's
That's why.
about the quality of the work, not the religion of the people that are in it, or the color of their skin, or where they're from. But
Henceforth, his question: the evolution of
yeah.
how much it's changed before this
We
shit.
hope
didn't
it's a
matter.
phase, right? You hope it's just a phase. That's what you hope.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm starting not to enjoy movies like I used to. Like,
not.
I used to love watching those 80, 90 movies because it felt real, it looked real, right? Now everything is CGI, is that the
Yeah,
right word?
CGI is right. Yeah.
Like, all right, I'm a big fan of Fast and the Furious. But how real are those cars flying off cliffs?
I'm not familiar with it. So that's Vin Diesel, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Diesel. Yeah, he's take one car in Dubai and he jumps it off a building to go into another building.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, at that point, that's where it's losing me. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
What do you think is the last great movie with what they call? I don't know if they call it real special effects. Is a terminology.
I
they
know
use
what you're
now.
talking about.
But there's
I can tell you which movie exactly it is.
And it's easy.
Oh, for me, Jurassic Park.
No,
It has to be.
no,
What?
no.
What?
I think it's The Thing. The special
Really?
effects in The Thing.
You serious?
I'm serious.
Why?
Jurassic Park was computer and AI and stuff
No,
like that.
it
And
wasn't.
The first one?
The first one, they had the animatronics.
Really?
Yes.
See, I didn't know.
It was animatronics. I can guarantee it, man.
Somebody Google that. Johnny, Google that.
Johnny, we want facts.
Jurassic Park, animatronics. I say no. I say computer.
Hold on a second. I'm gonna look it up because I don't want to sound like
Johnny,
an
why do
asshole.
I ask you anything, John?
I love you, buddy.
I love you too.
Park?
But to me, The Thing was amazing, and they just came out with a retrospective DVD or something.
The Jurassic Park films revolutionized special effects by using life-size hydraulic and robotic animatronics.
I had to go watch the first one now.
It'll blow your fucking mind. Because you're gonna be like, even the ones they do now, like with the ones with Chris Pratt that he was doing, I'm like, yeah, that looks cool.
That lost
Go
me.
back to that first one. Go back to that first
I'm
one.
gonna have to watch it.
Dude.
But are you familiar with The Thing?
Yeah.
John Carpenter, Kurt Russell.
yeah.
Okay, all right. Because that's and people even say that like that's the last great, whatever the terminology is for
Right.
on the set special effects.
Yeah, special effect. Yeah.
But there's a terminology I can't think of it.
It's all right.
You know,
Can't think
whatever
of
it
Bro,
is.
come on, you're not gonna
I
get
can't
it
think
100%
of
of the
everything.
time. Come on, man.
Help me out with
So
something.
you are a man of many things, right?
Yes.
Acting, stage, movies, shows,
Writing, producing.
producing, soon writing a book, I hope.
We'll
Now,
see.
now
We'll see.
let's get into the podcasting thing you're doing.
Yes,
Breaking balls.
I was handpicked, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh,
We
Jesus.
learned that today.
you learned that today, right? I was handpicked.
How did you decide to get into it? Like, what's
Well, Johnny Potenza, who's a dear friend of mine, has been a dear friend of mine for many, many years. I've been on he had a really, really great talk show in Staten Island on public access for many, many years.
great guy?
And I've been on his show many, many times. You guys have been on his show. Actually, he got a really, really nice commendation from Frank Mirano, Staten Island congressman, for all the things. What? All right, thank you.
Proclamation Award.
As you heard, ladies and gentlemen, the proclamation, what I wanted to say was because he's done a lot of great things for Staten Island and stuff. And it was really, really nice of them to recognize him. So he came to me when his show was winding down. He says, I have an idea for a podcast. I says, oh, that's great. Everybody's doing podcasts. That'll be good for you. He says, yeah, but I want you to be my right-hand man. I'm like, what do you mean you want me to be my right-hand man? He said, like, Johnny Carson had Ed McMahon and, that fucking guy, how Johnny talks. I says, all right. I says, let's go for it. I says, but the thing I don't want to be is I don't want to be a Ginzo show. I want to have guests that are going to be interesting. I want to talk about interesting things. I don't want to be, hey, yo, did you see the guy that,
So not our show.
It's interesting. No, I told you when you guys are on my show, what I like about you guys, first of all, is, excuse my French, but you're fucking intelligent.
Yes, we try to be.
You could have a conversation with you guys, you know?
We're not fucking
Screaming
driving
gobble goals and
No,
running
there's a lot
after-
of, yeah, no, there's guys that do this podcast that, that's all they do is they
Brain
go
dead.
and they buy the gabagool and it's, I don't care, bro. I don't care how much you like gabagool.
But that's how it is. That's because that's what sells.
I didn't want to be one of those shows. And I think so far we just started our second season. We've done about 40 something episodes now with a really nice, different, different type of guests and things like that. And we, like the show says, we're there to break balls, to have some fun, have some laughs because of all
It's
the
a nice
shit
outlet,
that's going
right?
on.
It's a nice-
it's a nice outlet for me.
Different from acting. It's like a relaxing thing.
Yeah, no
bullshitting.
stress, man. Like I said, you guys been on the show. It's no stress. We have some fun.
No, it's
man.
good. I enjoyed it.
That's
I
the
enjoyed
idea. It's just guys sitting around talking shit, having fun.
Right.
Let's see if this makes sense to you. What is the most New York thing that's ever happened to you on set? I'm gonna predict something from Sopranos.
So I mean, basically, like, where was it? Hey, I'm fucking walking here moment.
That was improv, right? That wasn't supposed to happen
Right.
in Midnight Cowboy. That's a movie I'm going to revisit. I haven't seen that in many years. I want to go see that one.
Yeah.
Midnight Cowboy. Most New York thing. God.
There's no better Italian American guys
Walks
in
on
New
set.
York.
They go, this guy's from fucking New York. This guy.
I had an instance. I don't know if this is a New York thing. I had an instance where I was doing dinner theater. We used to do this show called Murder by the Mob in the city, which was successful for a little bit. And I guess nobody told the security guards that I was going to have a really abusive fight with my co-star in the thing. And we're having this real knockdown, drag him out, fuck you, no, fuck you.
They thought it
Next
was
thing
real?
I know, I'm in handcuffs. The security guard cuffed me, is taking me out. And they called the cops and everything. I'm like, no, it's the show. It's the show. He's like, no, it's not part of the show. But I'm like, now the cast is running outside. It's like, no, we're doing a show here. We're doing. The guy thought it was like a domestic violence situation.
That's definitely
in
a New York
restaurant
thing.
and stuff,
That's
so,
definitely a New York thing.
so is that a New York thing? So that's
What?
yeah. I've had instances where I had to give somebody a talking to, when they would mistreat an extra in front of me, and I'm not going to deal with that shit.
No.
I don't know if you consider that a New York thing. My New York guy came out
It
today.
came out.
Hey, don't do that.
Don't fucking do that.
Don't do that. You don't want to do that.
So here's a follow-up question, Ad. Who plays the best mobster? Is it an actor or someone from New York?
Well, here's another take on that subject. What Scorsese and De Niro did with The Bronx Tale, they ruined it for a lot of actors out there because there were so many actors, great talented actors that could have played those roles in those movies, and they wanted to get street guys. And that's where all the nonsense started of guys that are sanitation workers and firemen that wanted to be actors. They started the nonsense where when they were casting the thing, I couldn't get an audition for the movie because I had headshot and resume. They weren't looking at headshots and resumes.
They were just picking out friends and people they
the
knew.
streets and stuff like that.
Wasn't
So,
there
no, I'll
somebody-
take an actor over a street guy anytime.
No.
Anytime. And you know what? A lot of these independent filmmakers, the mistakes that they make is they hire their buddies and their friends to play wise guys because they think they're wise guys. But when you watch it, you spot it from a mile away. The guy's not an actor.
Right.
He's not in the moment. He doesn't know what the prior moment was. He's not playing in the moment. He's not listening. That's one of the things that separates real good actors is listening. You watch Pacino when he's in a scene. Watch when the other actor is talking to Pacino.
They study.
Watch the listening that he's doing.
It's funny that you said that because I guess I was watching it still has to do with it, like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion. Did you watch that? Will Smith memorized everybody's lines and he was mouthing it during the filming and you saw it. He was actually saying other people. So he was paying attention and listening to his
I've
cues
seen that.
and going through because he was memorizing everybody's
Some
stuff.
actors could do that. I can't do it.
Oh, that's insane.
Somebody said that to me once. I was part of a little something, nothing crazy, and I guess I was worried about it. And his advice to me was, don't just learn your lines, learn the lines.
All the lines.
Yeah, and honestly, for me, once he said that, it helped me because I knew my cue on point, and then But then I also noticed some people, you see them mumbling it.
Yes, like he was like,
Yeah.
and then you see them like, oh shit, he's saying my lines, this motherfucker.
Well, that's crazy. You
How
can't.
do you
I've
do
caught that on TV. I see the mumble. Like,
You seen it?
yeah.
That should have been edited out.
Someone should have fixed that camera.
Somebody should have been fired.
And you could see Will Smith doing it in like the first like 2 episodes when you see other people talking. Look at him,
I had to go check that out. Now, that's crazy.
dude. I'm telling you, he's mouthing their lines.
Yeah, and then they go back to clips where he's actually doing it on the show while you watch an
Yeah.
episode.
Holy
Yeah.
jeez.
And I didn't notice that until they did the reunion and they made fun of him because of it. They're like, yeah, remember when Will was sitting at the table? Remember? And then we go to film and he's saying everybody's lines.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It's
I'll tell you
amazing.
my two favorite probably gangster
Mm.
roles that I thought the actors were just amazing. No, I'm gonna say 3 because Jimmy is definitely one of them. James
I
Gandolfini.
want you to
You
say one.
literally took my question.
It's all right.
So
We think alike.
Armand Desante
Yes.
in Gotti, the HBO Gotti.
I even said the second that I said he has to say it. I
So,
knew it.
My car.
Can't touch it.
Yo,
my
listen
car,
to this.
My car is the 2015
He's gonna fucking rattle it off.
because I have a CD player in there, and the movie that I always play when I'm bored driving around with, and I'm not supposed to, is the Gotti with him in it.
That's a top 5 mob film of all time.
He was
Absolutely.
amazing in that show.
Yeah. And Pacino is Lefty in Donnie Brasco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just an amazing performance.
Who
Those are my top 3.
Who would you say inspired you as an actor? If you have to look up to someone in life and stuff you're doing, I know there could be multiple names, but who's the one?
I'll tell you, Pacino is, of course, is my guy since I'm young. But the first time and only time, I mean, not the only time because I played with him when I was a kid. But when I was living in California for the first time in the early 90s, and I was really starting to work a little bit and doing things. And I walked into a place called Hamburger Hamlet at the time. And this place was famous because on Sunday afternoons, Dean Martin would go in there and have a hamburger and they put his music on and stuff like this. And this is near the end of his life. Kind of a sad thing to see him sitting there alone and stuff with his music playing. But one Sunday we go in there and he's sitting there and I says, man, I gotta say hello and see if he remembers my dad, So I wait for him to finish eating, of course. That's another thing. And if I'm eating, don't bother me when I'm eating. Don't bother any actors when they're eating. People do it all the time. Let us finish eating and then we'll take your picture and all that kind of stuff. No, I'm kidding. You can come up to me anytime. But anyway, I walk up to the table. I says, Mr. Martin, I don't want to bother you, but my name is Lou Martini Jr. My dad was Lou Martini. He was the MC at the Copa. But he says, oh my God, how's he doing? Is he still around? I says, no, unfortunately, he passed a few years ago. And I told him, I says, you're one of the reasons that I'm doing what I want to do, and I'm trying to be an actor and blah, 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 blah. And he looked me dead in the eye and he says, you keep doing what you're doing, Pally, and if you're anything like your father, you're going to be fine. The hair on my neck stood up.
Like a fucking cat.
Unbelievable. I said,
Sometimes you
fucking
need
Dean
those
Martin,
words.
Dean
Yeah,
Martin
man.
just told me to keep what I'm doing, Pally, and I'm going to be fine. amazing. So that was a very inspirational moment. I had a really nice inspirational moment with Eric Roberts. Have you guys had Eric on the show?
No.
Try and get Eric, because Eric is great. Eric is very kind to people that are doing things. You know what I'm saying? Did a couple of movies with Eric. And we were sitting there one time. I'm doing this movie called The West End with him and Peter Onorati and a few people down in Jersey. And I was bummed out about something. I was in the dumps about something, depressed about something like we usually are. And we were just talking. And he was like, Lou, he says, the only difference between me and you is I got luckier. He says, I've worked with you a couple of times. I've watched your work. He says, the only difference between me and you is I got luckier. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's going to be fine. You know? Very inspirational. Elias Koteas, you know who that is? Thin Red Line. Look him up. If you saw him, you know him. He's a great character.
I suck with names.
Great,
Forgive me.
Dude, for real, man.
Again,
Yo,
if
I
you
can't
saw
remember his
him,
name.
you know who he was.
Probably. We know by
Great,
faces.
one of the best actors of all time, Elias Koteas. I see him up at the Actors Equity, the Union Hall. And we just said hello to each other. We started talking. It was, again, I was depressed. One of that kind of like, I'm 30 years old, blah, blah. He says, let me tell you something. He says, I was exactly in the same shoes as you. He says, out of the blue, I got very, very lucky. I got one of the leads in A Thin Red Line. And then from then on, I just worked. I just worked. I got a break. He says, your break is coming. Just stay with it. Keep at it. Be true to yourself. Work hard, and your break is coming. That was a very inspirational moment. It's like, he's right. Let me just keep doing it. Harrison Ford tells the same kind of story. When Harrison Ford first moved to L.A., I forgot where he was from originally, but he moved there with like 4 or 5 buddies. And he says they were like all the same type. They were all blonde hair, blue eyes, good looking. And like 1 year later, one guy left. 2 years later, 2 of the other guys quit the business and they weren't hanging around and they weren't acting. And then like 5 years later, after he was in LA being a carpenter, he got a break because his other 4 friends weren't in the room. You know, he was like the guy, he was the type, the good looking guy with the blonde hair and blue eyes, got the job. And then he started a career, got American Graffiti and things like that. You know, you gotta be in the right place at the right time too. You really do. That's so true. You gotta be in the right place at the right time.
That's nuts, man.
So before we wrap this up, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Like, you haven't put me on the spot already? Jeez.
This was baby shit, bro. You kidding
Really?
me?
You had me sweating on a couple of those.
Just before you mentioned about some inspiring things people said to you, the hair behind your neck stood up. If you could look in your camera and if you had to tell our fans something inspiring, what would you tell them?
Like these 2 guys are. And I just met them recently. But I got this from my mom and dad. I'm a very good judge of character. Be true to yourself. Be kind to everyone. And give, don't take. And you'll have a very fulfilling life. Like these 2 young men are doing right now. And keep watching their stuff because they're good guys and they do good stuff.
Thanks, Lou.
Thanks for having me, man.
No, thank
No,
you.
It was an honor having you here.
Oh, please.
I want you to come back and give us more of these stories.
Absolutely, because we got more,
dude.
I got more stories.
Holy shit. Dude, you need to come back.
But if our fans want to check you out and follow you, where on social media could they find you?
Lou Martini Jr. My name at what the hell is Lou Martini? It would be .com then. See, Johnny P is my social media guy. He knows more about the Facebook and all that stuff.
Johnny, he plugged you 8 times. You mind plugging him once?
LouMartiniJR.com.
Junior.com.
Right.
On
And,
all social media platforms.
and what about the podcast? Where can we plug the podcast, John?
BreakingBallsPod.com and at Breaking Balls with Johnny P on all social media platforms.
And we have a new show every couple of weeks, right?
Bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom. Thank you, John.
Guys, check them out. Breaking Balls, movies, stage. Here's your guys.
Power, your favorite show, Power. Will be on
Power.
in a
I
couple
can't
weeks.
wait to see you on there,
Guys.
man.
It's also about Queens, South Queens.
You didn't ask me. I'm a Queens guy originally.
Where from?
I'm Sunnyside. I'm from Sunnyside, Queens.
You're a shitty interviewer.
You ask me everything under the sun except where are you from?
Except that.
Which is usually the first thing. Hey, where are you from?
Queens in the house.
Queens in the house.
Good night, everybody.